gonna make me slide.
Good morning, good morning.
Buddy.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to More Than a Game, the CMB pod that explores the political and cultural developments in the sports world through a pan-African lens. I am your co-host Shane, live from an undisclosed location this week. What's going on, J Finn?
What's up with my boy? What's up? What's up, man? How you living?
Man, living good, man, living good. We got a crazy sports world, man. We got a lot of developments to get into, bro.
We got a lot to talk about this week, man. We have fights. We got super seniors. Oh man.
man.
We can't say that college sports is for amateurs at any point anymore. There's no way we could try to frame that.
No, the facade is up, man. The amateur facade is up. Let's go and jump into it, man. We had the class of 2022. We had about 20 to 30 of those graduates. They sued in a Louisiana court to reinstate a fifth year of eligibility that they were not granted as the year of 2020 and 2021 were, given the COVID exceptions and injuries and things like that. So basically, bro, we got cats that suited up for preseason, went through NFL training camp, got access to the facilities, the coaches, the information, and now they free agents, bro. And we got colleges are not recruiting high school. Pros are not recruiting colleges. Colleges are recruiting out of the NFL.
Yeah.
What are we doing, bro?
The NBA, we have it with the NFL now, right? And again, and for me, right? College sports, especially at the highest level, Power Five, right? All of those things. It was never really about school. It was never really about these kids learning. It was always about the dollar. And now, like you said, the veil has been lifted, right? There's no more facade. We can't tell kids, hey, we want you to be a student. That's not the point of it anymore. I mean, maybe if you're playing D2, maybe if you're playing D3, right? But again, the mindset is still like, oh, I'm trying to get this school so then I can ball out here, and then I'll go to the transfer portal, and then next thing you know, I'm gonna be getting NIL money. And it's like, bro, you playing at D3, like let's, you know what I mean? Like, I think the money, right, in that has really shifted it. And again, money is always gonna be the key factor in all of this.
Man, let me ask you this as a parent, because you got a young athlete, y'all gonna be going through this process here soon. Say young bull go to UCLA, USC, you know what I'm saying? And you find out that USC bringing back cats from the G League, you know what I'm saying? They bringing back cats that was training with the Lakers, you know what I'm saying? They was running around. They went to training camp. They got access, you know what I'm saying? They coming back to take young bull's spot, bro. How is that sitting in a parent, you know, as a former athlete, as a coach, as a parent? How is that sitting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting in a few ways, right? One way, obviously, you're gonna have people saying, "Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair." And again, I think this gets into the same conversation about when we have holdbacks, right? And again, it's all about this money. It's all about like, what are you willing to do for your child? Um, for me, I'm the kind of I'm not a dad who is an advocate of the holdback for my son, right? I want to throw my son in the fire. That's what I believe in. I think like, hey man, if this is what you want to do, you're gonna have to face these obstacles, this adversity. You're gonna have to play against bruh at some point, whether he a year younger, a year older. If he a dog and you a dog, that's where it's supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Um, but it does create this. I can't, right? Again, there's for as long as we've known sports, we've known that there's a way that you climb up the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And you get yourself ready to play at that level. And so these developments obviously are going to change how that looks. And I think again, it should be shifting us as parents to think about what is actually best for my child, right? Hopefully getting us away from the like, oh, well, this is how everybody does it. Like, nah, bro, what's best for you and your child? What are y'all goals? Um, right? I know again, like even for me, I've told my son because I saw these signs coming right down the line, and I was like, bruh, I was telling him a long time ago, like, hey man, like our goal should be trying to play overseas. Then when we instead of playing high school basketball, we should be thinking about is there a way we could go play overseas? Because ultimately, as an athlete, as a human being, we have a finite time that our body could do this professional athlete thing. You know what I'm saying? Even someone like a LeBron James, when it's like, you know what I mean? Oh, he had the 20 something year career. It's like, yeah, but it's still finite. Like that man is gonna, his body is gonna say, actually, we can't do this anymore at some point, right?
Mhm.
And so you only have you know, hopefully a long time, but you only have a short window of your life to play ball at this level. So hopefully it starts to get us to think about those things. It gets us to think about things outside of sports for our babies, because again, what we need to realize is like this field, this industry, right? That's what this is. This is right. This industry, although maybe it's pure and for us and hard, and there's all of these other things. Uh, Again, the industry, just like the music industry, just like film, all of those things are going to have predatory behavior, and they're going to lean into certain things, and again, they're going to work for capital. They're going to be a tool for the capitalists, right?
Mhm.
If we don't have control of it, and so I think it's important that we have these conversations with these kids, that we are being able to be real and honest, and hopefully we can even utilize these contradictions to get them to understand like, hey, we actually can't have a one track mind, and it can't just be ball. We have to be looking at ourselves as a whole human being. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's just ball, and then right, you get there and then they send somebody from the NFL down and they take your spot, now you sitting there like, who am I, what am I supposed to do? It gets back to that conversation of identity we were talking about last week. Like, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? It's like, well, who are you? You more than
Absolutely. Yeah, you made an important point. Like reclassifying kids is not a new concept.
yeah,
That's not a new concept. It's not as talked about, but it's been happening for a long time in the amateur ranks in high school. I know some people, you know what I'm saying, that have reclassified for athletic advantages, and they ain't even end up at the schools that we talking about now, right? Another thing for the young bulls is to go to a school, go. You know what they say, go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it. You know what I'm saying? Don't go sign up for brands. Don't go sign up for color schemes. Don't go sign up for, you know what I'm saying, for network deals. Go sign up for an education, man. Go sign up to go get it done. If you can ball, they're gonna come get you. If you can hoop, they're gonna come get you, right? But go do what you got to do. But don't be signing up for the Adidas check, for the Nike check, for the school branding. Because like you said, they recruiting at the NFL now. It's not about you at 17, 18 no more. It's better that you go get your reps and go get your education and go have a more holistic understanding about what sports can do as a vehicle for you to push you toward you know what I'm saying, making a couple of dollars to take care of a family one day or whatever it is that you want to do in your life. But again, that's not chase the bag right now. That's not chase these brands, because they're not chasing you. They chasing 23-year-old grown men coming out of the NFL. So let's keep that in perspective, man. Shifting that over to the WNBA, man. There's a million things to talk about with the WNBA. We're going to do a deeper dive into some of these policies and some of the conversations around, but just even reacting to what we saw from the sister, the good sister, Tasha Cloud. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um, this canter and these fascistic rants and taunts and these bad faith attempts of entering the league based on what is perceived as vague policy and things like that. Again, a deep dive is needed. We got to bring on some women hoopers, some women athletes, some trans hoopers, some trans athletes to have a conversation in full. But shout out to Natasha Cloud, man, running that cat out the game. He shouldn't have been allowed to get no courtside seat at the game, given that he's been antagonizing these women from outside of the league. But again, just touching on that, man. Shout out to Natasha Cloud, Royce White, and his cancer. Go to hell. And again, deep dive pending. But anything you got on that, bro?
100%. I just again, I love this, right? She coming right at him. You feel me?
Mhm.
Um, and again, it just goes for me. It goes to show just like who black women are. You feel me? She she didn't care at all about what Buddy had going on. You feel me? Like she was with it. She was ready to get active, active and busy with him.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
and
She's been outspoken for on a lot of fronts, man. She spoke out on Palestine, which is perceived to be why she got a late signing. You know what I'm saying? Why people wasn't getting her in the league at first. defending the league on this end, speaking out on women's behalf for people throwing them, you know what I'm saying, them toys on the court and stuff like that. Like she been on it these last couple of years, man. So again, a solid shout out to Natasha Cloud for your principled approach to the developments in the league. And again, a full deep dive into the WNBA and the political economy around that coming soon. But we got to make sure we do that justice and bring on the right voices to represent that perspective. But
Yeah.
keeping it on the W, man, I want to throw this in there real quick, bro.
Hold on,
Conversation.
we gotta look this clip though.
There we go. There we go. And one.
You came, you feel me? And like I said, right, they called the timeout. She came straight to him. Barking.
Why is he allowed to have a courtside seat? You know what I'm saying?
And like the thing is no one's even tripping over here.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And like again, that gets back to like, for me, that gets back to like what we say we believe in and what we say we care about, and you know what I'm saying? Like, are we just letting this man? And of course, right, he's doing the stand like, my hands are up, I don't got nothing to, but I know.
But while he walking toward her, he walking toward the court. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is absurd behavior. This is insane.
Right, especially if we consider, you feel me, the malice in the palace and all of the, you can't come to the court, bro.
Man, you cannot do that, bro. So I'm talking about like, where's the ban for life? Where's the
Lucky brother Artest?
Somebody could have threw a cup at his head or something. But yeah, I'm looking for the league to do something about that. I mean, again, these people are antagonizing the league on podcasts and platforms around conservative platform, Fox News to these red pill platforms on YouTube and elsewhere. And again, allowing this person to buy a courtside seat to come in there and antagonize your players and then to take a step toward the court. Come on now, we got to protect the league. We got to protect the players and just the sanctity of whatever you're trying to portray as you know, saying that's your league. We gotta tighten up. We gotta tighten up shop on that end. We gotta tighten up shop. Let me scroll here, man. We watched the fight, man. We you know what I'm saying, we share a love of boxing as we always talk about. So this weekend we had a welterweight fight between Rolando Romero and Teofimo Lopez, 147 welterweight bout. Wasn't a great fight. I'll say that off top. It wasn't a great fight. A general lack of action. We did get some drama. We did get some moments. Some controversial scoring. Here's our moment. Right. Here's our moment. But you got Rolly letting some shots go, and he hurt TL and cut him in the 5th round, and had an opportunity to kind of close the show there. Had a push down, and the ref called a
knockdown right there. Because
I think it could have been. But I think, even if we play it back again, I think there was some wrestling and physicality. I think T.O. is a veteran. I think T.O. was smart, and he knew that the physicality was a chance for him to get a break and get away. But I think if he would have stood at range, he would have got caught again. So I think that might have been a veteran tactic on Teofimo's part. But I could see that going either way.
And again, like I in the fight, right, I thought it was a knockdown just because, again, like you could tell he kind of been hit and hurt a little bit in that round. I don't think it shifts the scorecard in a dramatic way because Oli just didn't throw, man. He just refused all night, it seemed like, to even listen to his corner. I know we were talking about that, like, bruh, his pops was in there like, bruh, just can you throw the punch? Can you help us out?
Oh, that's not what we trained for. I think Rolly fell in love with the left hook. I think that wasn't a bad game plan, given the fact that Teofimo fights with his right hand down. The left hook is there. So again, I think that was intelligent deployment of the weapon. One, I don't think it came frequently enough, which is why I predicted that was going to be his problem, was the punch value. But also, if you watch his Ryan Garcia fight, when he defended his title last May, he was throwing a double left hook, and that's how he knocked Ryan down. That was also a bad fight, and I think Rolly is just kind of having that as a theme right now. He's just not going to be an entertaining fighter that he used to be, given his new training style, the new system they've implemented. But yeah, I punch value, punch selection. I thought Tio won that fight 10-2, 9-3 at max. Scorecards were very close. Somebody had a draw. Someone had a 7-5. Someone had an 8-4. Again, probably another conversation for the corruption in the scoring in boxing, but that was nonsense. There's no way you found 6 rounds for Rolly Romero on Saturday night.
Yeah, and again, I wanted him to win, right? I wanted Rolly to win, but I think at best I could give him maybe 4.
maybe. And I was like, I gave him
Right,
2.
we talked
And
about it
then I
because I
thought back to the first round. Okay, that could have went either way. And I gave him
first
4
round
and
could have
5.
went either way.
4 and 5. And after that, it's like
Yeah.
and I thought 4 was close. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing about boxing is that close competitive rounds, they're swing rounds, right? They can go either way, and it can muddy up a scorecard pretty quickly, as we've seen. But
Not that
speaking
one.
of boxing, bro. Speaking of
Speaking
boxing,
of
man, let's jump
that,
into let's jump into. My bad, I went out just a little bit there. If I
yeah,
stepped up,
man. That
but yeah,
quote,
let's jump into
we got to come back to the quote.
My bad, brother. Go ahead.
Man.
There we go.
Yeah.
But
Then,
yeah, brother.
comma, you will encounter the faint-hearted and illogical types like Ali, entertainer and tool of the capitalist cliques. Their line is, ain't nobody but black folks gonna die in a revolution. This argument completely overlooks the fact that we have always have done most of the dying and still do, right? Again, he's getting us to this point. And again, this is 71, so this is post, right? I'm not going to Vietnam, right? And through social neglect or in foreign wars, the point is now to construct a situation where someone else will join in the dying. If it fails and we have to do most of the dying anyways, we're certainly no worse off. So that's where George, again, like you said, this is page 7 in the book. He ain't waste no time. He came out right away, said Ali is a tool for the capitalists. And I know that's gonna catch some folks off guard. It's gonna push some people in the corner to say, no, Ali was a revolutionary. I think we're here today to have a little bit of that conversation. So
Yeah, we got to get into it, bro. We got to get into it because, like most people, Ali is a complicated man with a complicated legacy, at minimum, right? And when it comes to what George Jackson prophesized, he was right. I mean, that's the kind of the case with athletes across the board in a capitalist system. But 1,000%, Ali was consciously or unconsciously used of the capitalist cliques. Um, I'm still here. You still here, Jordan?
I'm
Oh,
still
shit.
here. I was trying to
There we go.
get you on the
You
screen.
good?
It kicked me off the screen or kicked you off the screen. I want to make sure
Okay.
you was lit.
No, you good. We right here. We right here. So yeah, man. I mean, that's just kind of the thing that we want to get into today. So I want to recommend off top that people watch, if you haven't watched, the When We Were Kings documentary. I think Jordan, you watched it recently. I
Yep.
think that is the best sports documentary that's ever been made. To be honest, that's my favorite. But I do think, in totality, that's one of the best sports documentaries that's been made because of the archival kind of access they had to both sides and then the making of the fight, the clarity. I mean, again, they don't see a lot of, they're not paying attention to the political kind of relevance of how this fight's being made and what they're seeing and what they're going through out there. But they're really giving a nice PE session through that documentary about imperialism, soft imperialism, how the money was found, and Mobutu, right, and the renaming of the country from Congo to Zaire, and the horrible track record this man has with with human rights and the economy. He was a horrible leader, financially and socially, right? Um, but yeah, man, that's kind of dive into that fight and then kind of give context to some of the other images you might see around our picture of Ali, kind of caked up with some of our worst enemies of imperialism. Um, but you want to jump into the fight, or do you want to do political, or how
Yeah,
you want to?
we go into the fight right here.
Cool. So let me get some context to what's going on in this clip here, y'all. So by 1974, Ali is one of the most famous people in the world. Not even just an athlete, but in the world. 10 years before, 1964, here's his big upset win over Sonny Liston. Huge upset win under Sonny Liston. People thought he was going to get murdered that day. That's the young Cassius Clay at the time, right? Brash, Louisville lit, talking shit everywhere. You know what I'm saying? He had some suspected associations, but they were now public by 64. His associations with the Nation of Islam, with Elijah Muhammad, with Malcolm X specifically. This kind of rolls into, again, him being the baddest man on the planet, a phenomenal boxer, calling himself the greatest. He's brash, he's loud, he's proud about it. By 66, 67, he is drafted to the war in Vietnam, and famously refused to step forward when they called him by what he's referring to as a slave name. This leads to a 3-year suspension from boxing, 3.5-year suspension from boxing, and a 5-year conviction in prison, which was later overturned, leading to his return to the ring, giving context to what we're seeing now. So back to 1974. Ali's return to boxing was kind of rough, bro. It wasn't the smooth fairy tale that people thought it was going to be. Um, he loses one of the most gruesome, brutal fights in history to Joe Frazier at Madison Square Garden in '71. He avenges that loss, and he's 1-1 with Frazier. He goes on to lose to Ken Norton. He has to avenge that loss. Leading again, he had maybe 7 or 8 fights between returning in '70 and getting this fight here in Kinshasa, Zaire, Congo, in '74. Bro, he comes into this fight as a at minimum 4-1 underdog, which is if anybody is a sports bettor now, that's like plus 400 underdog. And some books had it bigger than that. Howard Cosell and other boxing experts were saying that this is the end of Ali. They said he's going to get killed. They say he's talked his way into a beating. He can't talk his way out of this one. And to kind of give some more boxing context, right? Joe Frazier presses and knocks down and beats Ali in '71. Foreman, who we're seeing fight Ali, destroys Frazier in 2 rounds, knocks him down 6 times, right? Also destroys Ken Norton in 2 rounds. So the 2 people who beat Ali, Foreman destroys them. So in boxing triangle match, people thought that Foreman was going to destroy Muhammad Ali this day. Um, Ali ends up winning the fight, 8th round, deploys his famous rope-a-dope style, but we're kind of here to talk less about between the ropes and more about how the fight was made and why this is one of the most prominent examples of sports washing in history. All right, so the fight was made by Don King. And just give some context off top, Jordan. Don King is still alive. Don King is famously litigious and petty. And we're going to be very, very careful about what we say about Don King because he will find us and he will sue us. Please don't do that, Don. Everything is alleged. We're just going off the books. But Don King promised each fighter $5 million. Don King did not have $5 million or $10 million, excuse me, for the fight. This is a theme of Don King Promotions. He was famous for allegedly corrupting people like Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Muhammad Ali out of millions of dollars, right? But the reason that this fight gets to Congo is interesting because they couldn't find a U.S. home for the fight. You're talking about the 2 biggest names in boxing, the 2 biggest names in American boxing. You got Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, huge brands globally. Why couldn't they land the fight in the United States? It's important context and it's really interesting. It's more or less related to Don King. A little bit to do with Don King. A little bit to do with Don King. So jump into that in a minute. One of the worst fight posters ever. So to Mobutu, the dictator in Zaire, right? This is the man who was the military leader who overthrows and assassinates and executes Patrice Lumumba in '61. So just to give people that context, this is the same person, the same man. He has a U.S. advisor, right? Because that was a U.S. and Belgian-backed coup of Lumumba's government in the Congo. So we're talking about a cracker named Fred Waymar, excuse me. This is a U.S. advisor to Mobutu Sese Seko is his full name. And he was used to get the money in place, right? This is a German-American with Nazi ties. He was a part of the German, I don't want to misquote the name. He was a part of an American Nazi association that was actually banned from the U.S. because they were trying to give Nazism a more American cloak over it. This is a known associate of a Nazi organization within the U.S. He convinced Mobutu to bring the fight to Zaire to put the money up for the fight because they needed to give Zaire a different global image. People were hearing about people disappearing. People were hearing about mass executions. People were hearing about coups of Lumumba. And like I said, Zaire's economy was in the gutter because Fred Waymore was also handling Mobutu's Swiss bank accounts, right? So Mobutu was sitting on piles of dough from the U.S., from Belgian colonial rule, and the people of Zaire are struggling and toiling for their every day. Mobutu is going to collect 42% of the ticket sales for this fight. Again, $10 million is paid for these 2 gentlemen in here throwing blows. And the people of Zaire are living under some of the most wretched conditions you're going to find on the planet of Earth. This fight was accompanied by a music festival. It We've seen this in other countries. We see this in Saudi Arabia today. It was going to be called Zaire, or was called Zaire 74. Bill Withers, B.B. King, Miriam Makeba, and James Brown were the headliners.
James Brown.
James Brown was out there doing the splits and everything else. But they come again to help wash this image, to wash the horrible reports that were coming out of Zaire. One more kind of fun fact, the not so fun fact: the stadium that they're fighting in is the May of 20th, the Memorial Stadium, I believe, and it's not memorializing what I'm going to talk about, but the crime rate was being reported as rising in Kinshasa before the fight started, and Mobutu, in response, rounded up 1,000 people more or less at random, and he executed 100 of them more or less at random to kind of set a tone and set the stage for what would happen if anybody interfered with what was trying to be the greatest sports washing feat of the 70s, or until 75 when we get Ali going to the Philippines to do it again, right? But just some of that context there. 60,000 people attend the fight. Like I say, 100 people were executed underneath where that stage is, where that ring is, merely weeks before the fight. And again, just one of the greatest feats and attempts at sports washing history. This is the Rumble in the Jungle, one of the biggest fights we've ever seen. I can't remember how many million people watched worldwide. But again, man, just an incredible fight. If you're a boxing nerd like myself, the between the ring stuff is absolutely incredible to see those two men get it on, just from from an athletic standpoint. But the context is largely not talked about. We rarely hear about where the jungle is, the rumble in the jungle. We rarely hear about where the money comes from. We rarely hear about Mobutu. We rarely hear the context. They don't talk about Lumumba. Just the legacy and the context of it is washed away. All you ever hear is the Ali, the African culture, exchange that was going on, which I think was important. And I think there were some genuine kind of thoughts from him, like, oh yeah, no, I'm here, this is home, and these are my people, and we're trying to raise pride at home and across. Like, I do think he was oriented somewhere in that direction, at least at that time. But again, he was being used as a Trojan horse for soft imperialism, and as a
Right.
fan, disappointing to do some of this research and see. But I will shut up for a second, and so we can dive into some of that, because I can go on.
Well, I think you even hit on it, right? Like, I think that if we put Ali in context of all the things, right? So like you said, about 10 years earlier, he has affiliation, he has a relationship. Really, he has a relationship with Malcolm, right? Who brings him into the nation. Um, and Malcolm is the one who is instilling this pride, instilling this history. Because again, if we put it in context, especially after Malcolm leaves, the Nation of Islam is not on any revolutionary black radical tip. They're on a black capitalist tip, which is what we see, right? Um, we we and again, the only reason that we can even say this is we know that every single black radical org, right, that has ever existed has been destroyed if they are truly seeking independence and sovereignty and all of those things, self-determination. If you were a black capitalist, you're gonna thrive. You're gonna be Jay-Z. You're gonna be right. The nation has survived. Granted, they have given us some things as a community that we can take and say this is beneficial. But if we are speaking overall as a whole, the nation isn't gonna get us free, right? And so Ali's political development is stunted through Malcolm's exit of the nation, right? And so Ali's essentially just left with a cup that has a little bit of water poured in that's like, hey, you should be proud of who you are. You should know who your enemy is. And Elijah Muhammad hits those same talking points, but he doesn't get us to what is the real issue. I have a hard time believing that if Ali is still connected to Malcolm, and obviously Malcolm has passed, but if right, there's no way in the world that Ali is gonna go help the cat who killed Patrice Lumumba because Malcolm wouldn't stand for it, right? And like so, those pieces of context are taken out, and so we almost get to see what it is like. I mean, and again, we see it now with athletes who are they want to wear Black Lives Matter on their jersey. They want to, you know what I mean? They want to make these statements, but when it comes down to it, they're not able to put those things into action because they don't have the foundation, they don't have the political education, they don't have the backing that gives them even the confidence to say, this is who I am, or this is what I believe in, even if it is, right? And
Right.
when you do see something like that, you see a Kyrie, right? They get ostracized, but again, to that point, someone like a Kyrie does show, if you good enough, you can still wiggle, right? And I think that we lose sight of that, right? As athletes, it's just like, well, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, right? And so yeah, Ali is definitely, like you said, I think there's some genuineness, right? Ale Boomba, like there was a real, like a connection.
Mhm.
Um, but again, it comes from this foundation he was given, but he wasn't poured into enough to understand it,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah,
And
the
I think
nation
that,
definitely wanted to sever his relationship with Malcolm as they were having their rift because they understood the if them two brothers will stay together, man, that's a dynamic duo, like the definition of such. I think
and
they
I
were
think,
both dangerous and on fire for particular reasons. And Muhammad Ali showed an ability to have that kind of pull during his boxing suspension. He spent that time touring the U.S. He needed money at the same time, right? So he was touring the U.S. and he was giving a lot of speeches on college campuses and things like that, mostly on the Black Pride tip, mostly on Black nationalism and Islam. But again, in that context of like he was with the right kind of people on the right kind of path um, until. So we talked about Rumble in the Jungle. I alluded to the Thriller in Manila, which will be another episode one day that deserves its own deep dive because a year later, another dictatorship is using Ali to wash away its sins, the Marcos regime in the Philippines. So again, more important context. But after Ali was done boxing, he became easier to manipulate and use as a tool, given his sickness, given his inability to articulate himself and kind of hold down things for himself. People started to speak for him, and he found himself in some very interesting situations, as we see here in this political article by Michael Esra here. Came out shortly after Ali passed in 2016.
yeah.
But yeah, Jordan, I'll let you dabble into a little bit of this here.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like y'all can check this out for yourselves. But it goes back, right? And it tracks Ali, um, again, as a political figure, as a diplomat, right, of sorts. Um, and again, a lot of times we have this really revolutionary mind frame around Ali, and we're like, yeah, like he died, he didn't go to the draft. He was, he was revolutionary. But when we start to take an examination, right, that this doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up, and it's again, it's past the fights, right? Um, and I think for me, right, this is where it hurts because we have Ali coming back from the Olympics. There's the great story of like him facing racism and taking off his gold medal and throwing it in the Kentucky River or what. You know what I mean? There's these moments that are meant to give us pride, right? Like, yeah. And then we talking about like less than 20 years later, bruh, you running around capping for the American government. Like the same one that was trying to put you in jail, the same one you was like, ain't no Viet Cong call me nigga, I ain't got no problem with them. And then now you running around to Africa. So, and again, getting back to how he's used as a tool. You built these actual real connections when you went, right? Because again, Ali goes multiple times to
Mm-hmm.
the continent. So you've built these real connections. There's people who love you, they see you, they understand that you're one of us. And then you come to Africa under the direction, right, of the United States government, right, in 1980 to push America's agenda to boycott the Summer Olympics in Moscow. Mind you, a few years before, when it was time to boycott the Olympics for South Africa, you were nowhere to be found, right? And so those things, right, start to show up. Again, in the article we talk about in 78, right? He has this great relationship with President Ford, right?
Scroll down just a little bit, you will see him referring to himself as the Black Henry Kissinger.
Yes. Yes. And like, bruh, Henry Kissinger, that's who, come on, that's who you compared yourself to?
in the
right?
wake of again in the wake of like refusing to go fight in Vietnam, you again. So the I saw somebody write about Ali's ability to be bent and be to be has he has a proclivity to lean into like contrarian views sometimes, and he can be convinced of things, be it left, be it right, be it nationalist, be it imperialist. He can be convinced to use things because it seemed like he just operates off of vibes, right? We looked at a video a few days ago where he was on Talk to the Nation, right, or Address the Nation, or what the show was, and he said multiple times, "I don't know too much about politics. I just kind of like how the guy smiled," and he endorsed Ronald Reagan because he liked to smile. You know what I'm saying?
When
Like
you know what he said, he brought God back into school,
based that religion
right?
foundation, like you said, yeah.
And I think, I actually think that's where we misinterpret a lot of Ali's political leanings. I think, like, I think if we're being honest, I think the decision, right, around not going to Vietnam is actually more of a religious or maybe even an economic thing. Again, I'm the number one boxer in the world. Why are y'all sending me to Vietnam? I should be above this. Like, if I'm right, if we're being honest, like, there has to be some human element of like, nigga, I'm Muhammad Ali. Wow. Like, what? You feel me? Like, y'all not drafting LeBron James. Y'all not being like, LeBron, are you signing up to go fight? No, LeBron not doing that. You feel me? There ain't no professional athlete.
Right.
The one professional athlete that did that, that got killed by his own people, like, they love him, right? They're like, oh,
Mm-hmm. Tillman.
yeah, Tillman. I was like, what's his name? I forgot. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and again, he's made up in the, but that was after 9/11 and like all the propaganda. So it was like, of course, like, yeah, send him. But like, again, Vietnam at this time is like, hold on, why are we even there? That's the other thing. Again, like, it is early in the war, right? So it is a little bit more, it's not as controversial, right? Yet, right? Because again, like, those images haven't really hit the TV yet of like what is happening in Nam.
Exactly.
But again, if we put it in context, Ali never said like the United States is wrong, point blank, period, for being in Vietnam. It was like, why are we there? It was a questioning. And then it was like, well, if I have a problem, the problem that me and my people have is here. Again, these aren't grand observations. This isn't some political revelation. Again, in 1951, right, Paul Robeson was like, they genocided us. Like, he's not making some crazy call. Um, and again, he sits in the religious exemption part, which is what saves him from going to prison. So again, I don't think it's as anti-imperialist as a lot of us want to hold on to and make it, right. Because again, if we turn it that way, it gives us this ability to hold an athlete in a way that we want,
Mm-hmm.
right. I do think all of us that are of, right, the revolutionary consciousness, we do want an athlete to do that, right? We've been waiting, right? And again, we've had moments, we've had flashes, you know what I'm saying? Again, if you look at right here, we have the moment where him, Jim Brown, right? Like, we have those moments where it's like, oh, there is Kareem, right? Like, there, and that is a moment, right, where it's like, actually, we see Ali being political in favor for the people, right? Um, but again, I think we have to understand context. We have to understand like time frame, and then take ourselves out of it, right? Because again, it's easy to be like, "What do you mean he went to jail for that and he went to da, 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 da. That was radical." Is it radical when in relation, like, the Panthers were sending niggas to actually go fight the American? You know what I mean? Like, we have to still contextualize it and even put it within its own time frame, right? Within that same time frame that Ali is like, I ain't fighting, the Panthers are sending folks to fight against the Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people who are taking more drastic stands. There are people who are getting killed at college campuses for protesting, right? Like, if we were going to be putting things in context, like, did Ali, again, did he sacrifice as an athlete? 100%. Did he sacrifice even some of his own freedoms and things of that? 100%. Um, but again, not obviously not comparable, but a little bit in relation to see, at least money wise, what happened to Kai. right? Kyrie has lost all these things, but then he rebuilt himself. So you can still see how. And again, Kyrie isn't like made some overtly crazy political message, but he did say, "Hey, bro, like while the pigs are killing all of us, and we trying to get some attention, we should stop playing basketball."
Mhm.
Like that that statement is more to me more politically aligned than like I ain't going to fight in Vietnam, right?
There's
He's
a
like,
lot of niggas that
"Hey,
didn't
the
want to go
people
fight in
are
Vietnam.
literally killing us. We can stop people from having entertainment, and then they're gonna have to deal with our demands in some semblance." Right? Like there wasn't that aspect with Ali. He was just like, I ain't going because again, my religion, because black people ain't free. But it was a myriad of things. It wasn't like imperialism is bad. The United States just shouldn't be there. And I think that a lot of times we kind of flip it and it's like, yeah, he was just against imperialism.
Mhm. It
Um,
makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about if they're, and that's what's lacking with all the athletes and really just anybody who's being used as a tool of the capitalist class with a platform and popularity. That lack of organization. There's a lack of a base of, I'm saying, of ideology of people who are you're studying with you and PE with you, you working with you resourcing with, like that true lack. I think it's stunted Ali's development, and I think it's what any athlete who kind of shows a flash or flirts or has a moment or has, has a moment of resistance or whatever it is, or stands up and reposts the thing about something, like it's in them, right? They have these moral inklings inside of them. But again, without that political direction, without organization, without that proper community, because their handlers are all telling them, no, you got to protect this sponsor and that sponsor. You got to keep this person happy. You signed that, you signed this, you signed this. It's next thing up. It's not how do we keep our community happy? It's how do we keep our bank accounts happy, right? How do we keep our sponsors happy, the advertisers? So yeah, man, that it's all about who people are loyal to, man. Where them checks are signed and where them loyalties lie, man. And again, we quickly find out that folks need money, folks need folks need avenues, and imperialism offers a lot of infrastructure for people to be able to wave the flag and things like that. So, like you said, they brought up Ali. Jimmy Carter was the one sending Ali out there to try to rally support for the Soviet Olympic boycott. And again, hypocrisy written all over it, man. That's a nasty move. And again, like you said, Ali tends to have a lack of geopolitical kind of grounding, right? Because there's no way they said he had a hard time. You read the article, he's really catching a lot of flack at a lot of these meetings from a lot of leaders, a lot of journalists, a lot of media people, a lot of community members. Like, there's no way you over here pushing this line right now, gang. Like, there's no way you over here waving this flag, giving
Well,
any
and they even
support.
said in the article, right, like Ali turns out to be a terrible diplomat because he doesn't know those things, and when those things get presented to him, he's like, "Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, you right.
That does make sense. Why? Yeah." And it's like, yeah, and again, it speaks right to George's quote, like, "You were just a tool. They're telling you this thing. You like, yeah, bro, it seems cool to me." And then yeah, you in Africa talking about, "Day, don't go to the Olympics." And it again, like I know it's not sports, but if we think about the way that like hip hop and like the hip hop global ambassador has been like weaponized, it's in a very similar manner. They send black folk, these hip hop superstars to Africa or to Asia or to wherever they want, and they're like, "Hey, you should listen to bruh. He a great rapper, and he be rapping about all this." And then, right, you got Chuck D, who's fight the power, and you working for the State Department. Like what? Like how does this line up? It don't correlate. You feel me? Like go get Flavor Flav in the clock again or something, because like we gotta rewind this time to get this back on track. But
Man, man, these
yeah, I think again, like it's just like you said, it goes to that. And I was talking to the homie the other day, Isaiah, who's an amazing guitar player, and he was like, I think a lot of musicians, and I think this probably applies for ball players too, we're so focused on becoming really great at our thing, to be knowledgeable of the game, to be knowledgeable, whatever it is, of our instrument, of our, what I'm saying, that we lose sight of being tapped in with those other things that impact our world, maybe outside of our niche, right? And again, this is to Ali's point. Ali knows he's black, he knows he's proud, he's heard the white devil, right? And yet, who's he doing business with? Who's he getting messed over by? You know what I'm saying? Who's he working for, whether in uh, conscious, or unconscious, right? And then again, like you said, getting to the point of like, man, we got pictures of him with, booed up with Bill Clinton, with him playing with Reagan, with him, with Ford, with Bush, with,
Bro,
and again, that is an understanding of like, I think some of this is even wanting to be accepted, right? Again, we hear the story about throwing the medal in the river, but that was a moment of rejection. It wasn't a moment of, again, it wasn't a moment of like, America, I see you for what you are, and I am turning my back against you. I am declaring myself a revolutionary. It's like, damn, I just won this medal, and y'all still treat me like a nigga. I can't believe this, right? And I think that, again, like when we analyze Ali, a lot of times we just take it as the like, yeah, 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 and without the contextual understanding, the historical understanding of the time period of what's going on, how he's actually moving. Because again, even if we were just to look at, um, you feel me, the way that he come again, and again, I know we have his later on in his life, like with the Parkinson's is heavy, but like 96 Olympics in Atlanta, lighting the torch, and people will say, what's wrong with that? He was Olympian. Well, who are you representing in this moment, right? And you're representing the United States. And again, like there was a hard shift where all of a sudden Ali goes from hated to loved, um, right? And his legacy is interesting around that because typically for our folks, that happens once you die, right? We hate King, we hate King. Oh, he's dead. We love him, and he was peaceful, and he was this, and he was that. I think similarly, we can almost track Ali's trajectory a little similarly to like John Lewis's trajectory, right? John Lewis was actually like the most radical of the March on Washington folks, and then as he is accepted into right empire, as he becomes a congressman, as his views do this, and now all of a sudden we love him and he's good trouble, right? But when he was the radical kid with King, he was an issue, right? And they didn't let him speak, right? So I think that we can even see the acceptance, the assimilation, those things show up. And I actually think that's a great parallel is Ali and Lewis, right? Because of their radical beginnings or the ways at least that America saw them and then completely saw them a different way. But again, their actions and these things um, go to show how imperialism works, right? It's like, well, you could keep fighting us or you could join us and change it from the inside. And I think that's the lane that you see Ali, that you see a John Lewis take is like, again, we've seen a lot of our friends get killed, right? Um, and again, I don't even think that Ali catches enough flack for the shit he says about Malcolm. Because he talks about Malcolm when Malcolm was alive and then when he's dead. Essentially said that Malcolm deserved it, brought it upon himself for going against Elijah Muhammad, right? We wouldn't let nobody else talk about Malcolm like that. We wouldn't let nobody else talk about Malcolm like that, right? Um, but again, Ali gets this pass because the rest of the nation don't get a pass, right? For the folks who love Malcolm, we don't never give the rest of the nation a pass. We on Farrakhan, we on Elijah Muhammad, we on all these people, but Ali. And so I think it's just interesting. And again, it goes to show us what we do for our celebrities, what we do for our entertainers, how we make them okay for us to root for, you know what I'm saying? And again, it gets back to that. It gets back to the dollar. It really does, if we're being honest. Because who are we giving? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And that's what we're here to do, man. If they ain't gonna get a context, man, that's what we're here to do. And more than the game is get that context and have those conversations. Is again, my whole life I've been an Ali apologist, and again, a lot of the homework. Again, I had to really do some of the reading and pay more attention to educate myself beyond the boxing. You know what I'm saying, and beyond some of the, I'm saying some of the Black Power clips. So I really had to educate myself. And as we dive deeper, man, there was no shortage of evidence that George Jackson was right on page 7 and page 8 of Blood in My Eye. These cats are tools of the capitalist cliques, and again, that's what we're here to explore on More Than a Game. In that context of sports washing and that wave, we got a few minutes left, but like contemporary examples that we just experienced, like the U.S. World Cup, right? They got a rogue military and ICE running around, kidnapping people, kicking in doors, and severing families. And they bring the world's game that's dominated more or less by the global South. You know what I'm saying? To come play within the U.S. You have Iran. As you bomb Iran, their players are navigating, you know what I'm saying, traveling and logistics of Southern California and having to go back to Tijuana. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine a country bombing your country, then having to go play fucking soccer in that country? Like, and then they just draw it all the way out. They didn't take no L's either. Like, I was super kind of proud of the way they handled themselves. But the
Well,
displacement of these
Palestine can't even
cities,
play, right?
the building of these stadiums. Palestine couldn't play because half the players been massacred and infrastructure's been destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Like they would have had the opportunity to qualify. On the basketball tip, Israel, you know what I'm saying, they're trying to qualify for World Cup. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what I wanted to touch on, it might be another episode, was the Saudis, man. Saudi Arabia right now, they have this, only got a couple minutes, but they got this Vision 2030. I'm gonna do a little segment on it maybe next week because it relates to basketball as well. But they have a whole plan where they publicly announced the sports washing campaign where they're like, look, we know we killed that journalist in 2018. Y'all called us, you know what I'm saying? We know we just let women start driving in 2020, you know what I'm saying? Y'all called us, you know what I'm saying? Y'all called us on the human rights tip. But like, check out these concerts that we finna do in Riyadh. Check out these boxing matches we finna put on. They've put billions, I mean billions, bro, into boxing. Some of the biggest fights since 2023 have been in Saudi Arabia. They hold a Riyadh season, which is like a 7-month festival in Saudi Arabia, where they just, again, it's a celebration of Saudi culture and everything like that. But really, it's just billions of dollars coming from what's called the Saudi Public Investment Fund, and they're just dumping money on entertainers, on athletes. Come move to Saudi Arabia. Come play over here. Come ball over here. Have your fight over here. Help us build this brand and reimagine what it looks like and build tourism back in Riyadh and Jeddah is the other city in Saudi that they're doing a lot of festivals in. Worth an episode, bro, because when I say billions of dollars have been into boxing, and that was like the third installation. You've heard of Live Golf. The recent news, they're on their last tour. Saudis are pulling the plug. They poached a bunch of PGA golfers, pulled the plug, you know what I'm saying, when they want to, when they're ready to. Cristiano Ronaldo took Jamie, he was already generationally rich. He took another generation's wealth to go play football in one of the weakest leagues you can find in Saudi Arabia. He over there hooping with them. And then, like I say, boxing since 2023, like October 2023, heavyweight fights, lightweight fights. They're stacking up the cards. They've changed the boxing market as well. And again, all of this in the shadow of their crimes and supporting Israel, murdering journalists,
They
suppressing their people.
hella like similarly to like the Rumble in the Jungle, right? They be bringing out like performers, and it's a whole ordeal.
Man, it's impressive actually. The how much money they're just generating right off of the backs of their people and the labor and just, you know, whatever else they got going. But yeah, the amount of entertainers and festivals and athletes they've had come through is it's absurd. I think Riyadh season is coming back up. I forget the actual time stamp, but Riyadh and Jeddah season is coming back around, and you're going to see a lot more of it. And given that we pay a lot of attention to hoops, pay a lot of attention to sports, we pay a lot of attention to boxing. I meant to say music a second ago. There's going to be a prevalent theme here in More Than a Game, talking about that Vision 2030 in the Saudi investment, because I'll get to it. I'm gonna tease this a little bit, but there's some cats out of that area. They're not specifically Saudis, but they're the money behind the new Lakers purchase. There's some connections to the Middle East behind the new Lakers. But Mark Walters is in a lot of trouble financially with the SEC and the Feds, and a lot of that, the NBA teams flipping like houses right now. Minnesota just sold too. A lot of this has some similar connections, man, because the Saudis own Newcastle in the UK, the soccer team.
I was gonna say, aren't they trying to get there? I know that there's like pushes to even try to get like NFL, NBA games over there and things like
Yeah,
that.
that's the thing. They are slowly creeping into, because the leagues, again, we got a little bit of time, but this is a whole episode. The leagues in the United States are allowing private and sovereign wealth funds to invest in their ownership groups. That's not something that was allowed to happen before. Before, it was just like the Steve Bombers and the Mark Cuban types, billionaire sports fans who can afford to do it, right? they can't afford to buy teams anymore, individuals. There's no more Mark Cuban ownerships anymore. They're starting to really transition into these sovereign wealth groups. Some of them coming out of out of the Middle East and elsewhere, and it's changing the way that these teams are being ran and built because they're just flipping them. They're running them like businesses. You seen in Portland, that cat don't even make team shirts no more. You know what I'm saying? Like they're laying people off by the thousands right now. So real shifts are coming into pro sports in the United States based on international money coming in, which is
Well, and I
interesting.
was gonna say too, even right, like we see the American leagues starting to play a bunch of games all over Mexico and Europe. They got two,
London
three
all the time. Yeah.
NFL games in you know what I mean? Oh, in Europe, they playing in Germany, they playing in Mexico. They there's and again, and obviously in basketball's everywhere, but I just think that NBA Africa. Like I think these things are again going to be tools for imperialism, tools for capitalism to continue to keep its hold right on these countries. Um, yeah, I just it's very interesting to see how this is shaking out. Again, the money side, I think right, going back even to the start of this episode, right, we were talking about NIL essentially, because that's where this fifth, 5 years to 5 years, that's where it comes from, right? It's not about playing ball. It's about the money behind it.
Mhm.
It's about NIL now, right? How do I get this bag? Shit, I got 5 years to get five bags. You feel me? Like
Yeah,
that's what it is.
absolutely.
Um, and so I think again, our name more than a game, it speaks right to what we are dealing with um, in relation to all of these things. And again, we touched on it a little bit this episode and last episode about how it comes down to the youth, but it trickles down in the worst ways, right? To where we have 11, 12-year-old parents of children who are 10, 11, 12, talking about how am I going to get my kid an NIL, worrying about those things. And so I think that, right, as we continue to push, um, forward, right, with our pod, just in general as people moving towards liberation, understanding how this money works and how it's flowing, who are the factors that are pouring in, what what is their motivation behind getting invested, all of those things have to be examined in a political context with a political lens, with an understanding of economy and how the economy shifts the politics of all of these things, right? I think that is the biggest takeaway. And again, I think um, it gives us something to talk about in the realm of where are we at and how do we get our people closer, right, to freedom. Because if we're only concerned with I gotta play ball, and we don't understand even what's happening around us, at worst we're going to turn into an Ali that has no idea what we're being used for, right? And that's if we're just unconscious, right? And at that, you know what I mean? And if they completely get us, then, now we're gone.
Absolutely, man. With that being said, bro, let's tease next week. We're getting into the NBA, the National Basketball Association, and
Yeah.
its rampant Zionism and its soft
Come on.
imperialism across the continent of Africa. Kevin Durant, I see you investing in drones. Steph Curry, you are not safe. We are going to get into these financial
Draymond.
backings. Draymond, you are not
Oh,
safe.
Warriors.
There's
No,
a picture of him. This is a Golden State Warriors tear down episode next week on More Than a Game. Tap in with us. Tap in with CMB on all social medias, and please support CMB-TV. Appreciate y'all tuning in, man.
yes, sir. We out of here.
Peace.